The Reverend Alexander Duncan Campbell, 1879 till 1913. Reverend Alexander Duncan Campbell was inducted to Kirkcudbright Parish Church on the 27th of March 1879. He was the son of the Reverend James Robertson Campbell, minister of Kirkcudbright, Ayrshire. Following his education at Glasgow University, Mr Campbell was led Presbytery of Kintyre in 1870 and later in June 1875 ordained as assistant and in time a successor to his father. He had two brothers in the ministry. Thereafter he was transferred on the 2nd of May 1877 to St George's Parish Church, Paisley. He married Mary Jane, daughter of William Muir of Mains Beef, on the 10th of June 1891. They had two sons, James Fraser Muir, MB, CHB, surgeon, RN, born the 12th of November 1892, and Lieutenant William Alexander, Argyll and Southern Highlander, British Expeditionary Force, born on the 21st October 1894. Alexander Campbell was a fine scholar with promise of future distinction, but he preferred the quieter life of a country parish. He was a diligent pastor and valued member of the Kirkcudbright School Board Parish Council and the Johnson Hornell Trust. Following 34 years as a minister, he had preached at Harvest Thanksgiving service on the forenoon of Sunday the 28th of October 1913 and afterwards opened the Sunday school. Whilst on his way home to the manse, however, he was suddenly seized with illness and died 2 days later at 5 p.m. on Tuesday the 28th of October. He was laid to rest in St Cuthbert's Church, and a fine Celtic cross memorial marks the place of his burial. It was said of him at his funeral that although there were days of stress and trouble, more especially in recent years, yet the great body of people stood staunchly by him. In his memory, an appreciative congregation later installed the Good Shepherd stained glass window in the town end gallery. During his ministry, Mr Campbell oversaw the completion of Atkinson Place and benevolence to a number of tenants to attend college to assist immigration. He also managed the transition from presenter-led worship to organ-led praise with a fine Thomas Harrison organ installed in 1886. An article which appeared in the Dumfries Gallery Standard of the 29th of September 1886 reported about the new pipe organ in the following terms. The building and tuning of this magnificent instrument has now been completed, and it will be integrated on Friday by Dr. A.L. Pearce of Glasgow. The organ presents a most imposing appearance, its pipes standing tier upon tier to a height of 37 feet from the floor. The instrument is built in two halves, one half on either side of the window behind the pulpit, and connections part under the floor from one half to the other. It is blown by means of a Crosby gas engine of 2 horsepower, which is placed in the cellar beneath the vestry. In the event of an emergency, however, the gas engine car can be dispersed with. The engine will work quadruple feeders placed in the chamber beside the vestry. The case of the organ and the pipes are made of yellow pine varnished to suit the fittings of the church, the front pipes being decorated in blue and gold. Each half of the instrument measures 12 feet across and front 6.5 feet from the back to the front and 37 feet in height. The keyboard, which has the appearance of an ordinary harmonium, being placed on the left hand of the preacher. The order of the organ, which is to cost £900, was given 5 months ago by Messrs Harrison and Harrison of Durham, the builders of the grand organ in St Giles Cathedral, Edinburgh. The Reverend William Barclay, 1914 to 1926. On the 20th of April 1911, William Barclay was ordained and inducted to the neighbouring parish of Townhead. It was a demanding charge, although there were 2 parish sisters and 6 students who were assigned to him for training. Many of the people who lived there were on the poverty line or below it and in trouble, had no claim on anyone but the minister of the parish. His first New Year Eve, a traditional time for the purpose, he performed no less than 12 weddings between 6:30 and 9:30 p.m. To the regular round of work and services were added the demand of a major renovation and redecoration project, and after 3 years of constant strain, he was glad to accept a call to the Royal Borough of Kirkcudbright and was inducted on the 4th of June 1914. He married meantime. Jessie had been a scholar in the school where he was pupil teacher, and their son Alec was just over a year old. Years later, he was to write, "My wife shrinks from occasions which demand her lifting up her voice in public, but she excels in spade work behind the scenes in congregational life. We have been very happy together." Kirkcudbright was very different from Glasgow. There were still visits to be done and services to conduct, but the gentle magic of river and sea, hill and mountain cast their spell too. Alas, 2 months later, war cast an ugly spell. William Barclay had served while a student with the 1st Lanark Volunteers and was now commissioned Lieutenant in the 4th Volunteer King's Own Scottish Borderer, in command of the Kirkcudbright Home Defence Platoon. Then, in May 1917, he was appointed an Army Chaplain. After service in London, where he witnessed the first major air raid of the city, he was transferred to Alexandria, then Cairo, and then in June 1918 he joined Allenby's force in Palestine, participating in the final victorious drive which broke the Turkish resistance. Always willing to seize an opportunity to enlarge his experience and knowledge in both Egypt and Palestine, he visited many of the ancient sites and sacred places. Returning to Kirkcudbright, he was soon involved in the busy round once again, but he didn't forget the wartime comradeship. When a welcome home social was arranged for the returning troops, it ran into problems. Dancing was prohibited in the church hall. During the evening there was a great clamour for a dance. After much pressure, Mr. Barclay compromised, and so the company joined in the game of Petronola. The minister in such a place is almost automatically involved in the community affairs. Barclay was an office bearer in the local choral society and president of the Kirkcudbright Burns Club, 1922 to 1926. In 1918 he was elected member of the newly formed Education Authority, acting from 1921 to 1926 as staffing convener for the county and serving on the National Committee for Training of Teachers. He was chairman of the local school management committee and credited with leading part in the building of the new Kirkcudbright Academy. His congregation meanwhile continued to benefit from the life and vigour he had brought to them, and from his eloquent, helpful and arresting sermons. And in a parish which a minister had not left for over 150 years unless called by death, they looked for it long to continue. But it was not to be. On the 15th of January 1925, Reverend Stuart Parker sat in his study in Toronto, penning a letter to Mr. W.E. Finn, the congregation of Central Presbyterian Church in Hamilton, had narrowly voted to remain Presbyterian, but Dr. Sedgwick had opted to enter the United Church. The congregation decided to seek a new minister from Scotland. Parker listed the names of 19 splendid ministers of the younger school for consideration. Second in the list was William Barclay. Barclay's initial response was cautious, and for a while the congregation looked elsewhere, issuing an unsuccessful call. The congregation then commissioned Dr. George Duncan of Dublin to act as their agent. He knew Central from his days as a minister of the Church of St Andrews and St Paul in Montreal. Early in 1926 he arranged for Barclay to visit. True, he might not have offered it had he not believed the climate of Canada might suit his daughter better. Morna suffered from bronchitis, but he was a man strongly recommended here, a capable leader, a preacher and organiser, and present sought by several vacancies. Dr. Parker reaffirmed that a more competent man could not be desired. The induction of the Reverend J. E. Marshall, BAE, assistant to the Reverend Dr. Duncan Govan, as minister of Kirkcudbright Parish Church, in succession to the Reverend William Barclay, now of Central Presbyterian Church, Hamilton, Ontario, took place on Thursday in presence of a large congregation. The election of Mr. Mothershaw was particularly harmonious nature, being particularly unanimous, and the vacancy committee and the congregation are to be heartily congratulated on the settlement. Mr. Mothershaw is a Canadian and holds an excellent record of scholastic attainments. He is an honours graduate of Toronto University in the course of English and History with Classics. For a period of 9 months he had a student assistantship in Knox Church, Galt, and the following year he was graduate of Knox College, Toronto, in theology, after which he studied in Berlin University. Afterward he was locum in Knox Church, Galt, from March 1915 to September 1924. He was minister of Taylor Presbyterian Church, Montreal, during which pastoral he went absent for 3 years on service in France. He joined the Canadian Forces and served as stretcher bearer and then as chaplain to the end of the war. He resigned his charge in Montreal in order to have an opportunity for fresh study and ministerial experience in Scotland. And since October 1924, he has been assistant to the Reverend Duncan in Govan Parish Church and superintendent of the Pearce Institute there. During his stay in Govan, Mr. Mothershaw has done much good work and earned golden opinions. He is 36 years of age and married. He was welcomed to Kirkcudbright Parish Church. He thought they might congratulate Mr. Mothershaw on his appointment on various grounds. First, of his election as minister of Kirkcudbright. Some years ago he spent a weekend in Millport and attended the church on Sunday. He was very much struck with the frequency which the minister prayed for the Meikle and Little Cumbres and the adjacent islands of Great Britain and Ireland. The Reverend Adam Jack, 1964 to 1974. During Adam Jack's ministry, the visit in 1965 of Her Majesty the Queen and Prince Philip was a high point. The Reverend William Granger Allen, 1975 to 1978. A native of Glasgow, Mr. Allen was educated at Allen Glen School, Glasgow, and served at the RAF for 2 years until 1954. After spending some time at Abaya with a light engineering company, he studied for the ministry at Glasgow University and in 1964 was ordained his first charge at South Church, Fraserburgh. He was inducted to his present charge in 1971. Stuart Wilson's ministry, 1980 to 1997, saw the union of the former St Cuthbert's and St Mary's congregations, effected on the 15th of May 1983, and in 1988-89, major restoration of the church building. The present minister of St Cuthbert's Parish Church is the Reverend Douglas Robert Irwin, 1998.